What's up, everybody? Trey Wingo here. Let's talk about the decision by the Indianapolis Colts to name Daniel Jones and not Anthony Richardson their starting quarterback. Look, it's a terrible look for the Colts because just 2 years ago they drafted Anthony Richardson fourth overall in the NFL draft. We'll get to that. But let me explain why, just using this thing called math, statistics, information, why it has to be Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is a reclamation project, basically, after being a high first-round pick of the Giants in 2019. He's moved around since they moved on from him, but he clearly has outperformed Anthony Richardson. And Anthony Richardson was hurt for a large part of this run-up to the season, so that clearly hampered his ability to win the starting job. And if you just followed the breadcrumbs, you knew this was how this was going to end up, okay? And I hear a lot of people saying, well, the Colts have given up on Anthony Richardson. They haven't properly developed him. Maybe, crazy thought, maybe he's just not developable. Even if that's a word, I'm not sure. You know, a lot of people say, well, he's younger than all these other quarterbacks. Yeah, he is. But he hasn't performed in any way, shape, or form to maintain his position as a starting quarterback in the NFL. Let's go over some numbers, okay? For his career, he's completing just over 50% of his passes. But that's misleading in a bad way because he only played 4 games his rookie year because he kept getting hurt. And in those 4 games, he completed 59% of his passes. Last year, when he played 11 games before he got hurt, he completed 47% of his throws. Technically 47.7. If you want to round up to 48, I'm fine with it. That's not going to cut it, okay? And it's not just last year. He's been in the league 2 years, okay? Over the last 2 seasons, there have been 55 quarterbacks. This is important. There have been 55 quarterbacks that have thrown at least 175 passes. Anthony Richardson, over that time frame, ranks 55th in 55 out of accuracy, 55th in 55 in completion rate, and 50th out of 55 in touchdown interception ratios. Okay, well, Anthony Richardson's real strength, though, is got a big arm, push it down the field. Great, let's look at that. So take a look at passes that go at least 7 or more air yards, pushing it down the field when there's no pressure. The NFL average completion percentage on those type throws is 57%. Anthony Richardson, in his strength, is completing 38% of his throws. Okay? Only 2 quarterbacks in their first 2 years since 2000, minimum 300 attempts, since 2000. There have been 103 quarterbacks with at least 2 years experience, minimum 300 attempts. Of those 103 quarterbacks, dating back to 2000, so we're not talking a small sample here. Anthony Richardson, 103rd out of 103 in accuracy. Anthony Richardson, 102nd out of 103rd in completion percentage, or completion rate. 94th out of 103 in success rate. 88th out of 103 in touchdown interception ratio. Look, I can go on and on and on. He's not good, okay? Might he be good? Yeah. But he's now working for a staff in year 3 that needs to win football games to keep their jobs. Remember, this is the Colts. They don't really have an owner right now. Their owner passed away in the offseason. So everybody that hired Shane Steichen and his entire staff is in flux. They don't know who's making the decisions right now. There's a lot of uncertainty in Indianapolis. And if Daniel Jones is the best way for Shane Steichen to keep his job, that's what he's going to do. Do not buy this narrative that Anthony Richardson hasn't been given a fair chance. Despite all those crappy numbers that I just showed you, all he had to do this offseason was beat out Daniel Jones, okay? We're not talking Brock Purdy. We're not talking Lamar Jackson. We're not talking Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Aaron Rodgers, Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts. He had to beat out Daniel Jones. And Daniel Jones's numbers are exceedingly across the board way better than Anthony Richardson. So if you're looking at where the Colts failed, they didn't fail to develop Anthony Richardson. They failed in burdening him with the pick 4th overall in the 2023 draft. Go back and look at his numbers at Florida. Anthony should have never been drafted that high. And here's where drafting scared will always kill you. Do you remember what Chris Ballard said, the general manager of the Colts, when he drafted Anthony Richardson? He said, I didn't want that guy to go somewhere else and be a star in the league. Not, I believe in his talent. Not, I think he has the potential to be the next big thing. He didn't want to be the guy that passed up on a guy who might be good somewhere else. That's drafting scared. You either believe in the guy or you don't. You don't draft somebody because you're afraid they'll go somewhere else and make you look bad for not picking him. That's not how you win. Anthony Richardson has a chance to reclaim his career. Go somewhere. We've seen it. Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold. We've seen other quarterbacks do it. But they've been much more efficient at the job than Anthony Richardson has. There was no other way this was going to go. I tweeted this back in June. We can find the receipts if you like, or on X. It's never X. It's always Twitter. Of course Daniel Jones was going to win this job. Anthony Richardson simply didn't do anything close to what he needed to do to beat out Daniel Jones for the Colts starting job. And that's straight facts, home.